Hello grade 2. How are you today? Today we're going to have a new grammar lesson. It's an easy lesson. Unit 16. Superlative adjectives. Superlative adjectives. Say again. Superlative adjectives. What's the meaning of superlative? We use the superlative to compare more than two people, places, or things, unlike the comparative adjectives. Can you remember the comparative adjectives with me that we talked in Unit 15? Yes, comparative adjectives mean to compare between two people, places, or things only two things. But the superlative compare more than two, three or four or five or more than two. Here, look at this picture. The first house here is big. The second one is bigger. The third one is biggest. So here, if I compare between the first one and the second one, it means that I will use the comparative. So if I compare between the first one and the second one, I'll use the comparative adjective, bigger. If I compare between the second one and the third one, I will use the comparative also. But if I compare the third one with the other two houses, the three houses, I will use the superlative. Now, let's look at this picture, the same picture, but here we will use the adjective high. We have the first house, the second house, and the third house. The first house is high. High here is an adjective, just adjective. The second house is higher than the first house. Look here at this adjective, it's a comparative adjective, higher than. What do you notice here? That we add er and then to the adjective. Why? Because I compare between the first house and the second house. Two things only. That's why I use the comparative adjective. And we form the comparative adjective by adding er and then to the adjective. Let's read again. The second house is higher than the first house. Let's compare between the third house and the second house. What do you think? We'll use the comparative or the superlative? I can hear you. The comparative, excellent. Why? Because we are comparing between two things only, not three. The third house is higher than the second house. The third house, if I compare between the third house and the other two houses, I will use the superlative. So we can say the third house is the highest. The third house is the highest because I compare between the third one and also the second one and the third one. Correct? The third house is the highest. What do you notice here? That we add the, then est to the adjective. So how can we form the superlative adjectives? We add the before the adjective and then est to the adjective. Now, let's move to this picture. Giraffes are the tallest animals in the zoo. Here, look at this picture. Who is the tallest one? What do you think? Of course, the giraffe. So here, I'll use the comparative adjective or the superlative. Of course, the superlative. Why? Because I compare between the giraffe, the elephant, the zebra, the lion, and this one also I think it's a dog. So here we compare between many animals, not only two animals, no, compare between many animals. So here I use the superlative adjective. Let's read the sentence together. Giraffes are the tallest animals. I cannot say giraffes are taller than animals. No, the tallest animals in the zoo, or a giraffe is the tallest animal in the zoo. Here I write the, then the adjective tall, then I add est to the adjective. The tallest. Okay? Now, let's move to this task. I have here 3 people, Kate, Bob, and Tom. Who is the oldest one? Of course, Kate is the oldest one. Kate is the oldest one. And also, if I want to compare between them, I can say Kate is older than Bob, and Bob is older than Tom, and Kate is the oldest. So if I want to compare between Kate and Bob, I use the comparative. If I want to compare between Bob and Tom, I use the comparative also. But if I want to compare between Kate and the others, they will be more than 2. That's why I use the superlative adjectives. So here we will write Kate in the box. Kate is the oldest. Okay? Let's go to the other one. Snail, car, and rocket. We have 3 things here. The space is the slowest. What do you think? Which one is slow? Which one is the slowest? We can see here snail is slower than car. So we can say snail is slower than car. And we can say the car is slower than the rocket. And we can say also the snail is the slowest, because now here I compare between the snail and the other 2 things. Okay, now we will write here snail. Okay, now let's move to the rule here. Superlative adjectives. Compare between 3, as I told you, or more than 3. Used to compare 3 or more things. The elephant is the biggest animal. Look at this picture here. Who is the biggest one? The elephant. So the elephant is the biggest animal. And as I told you, we form the superlative adjective by adding the and est to the adjective. And here I double the consonant G. Let's read together. 1 syllable. We form the superlative by adding the, by putting the before the adjective and add est to the adjective. Like the biggest, the smallest, the tallest, the shortest, the longest, the strongest, the weakest, the fastest, the slowest. The 2 syllables ending in Y, change Y to I, then add est. Like the heaviest, the friendliest, the happiest, the funniest, the prettiest, the busiest, the friendliest, the same word again, the dirtiest, and the angriest. Here, 2 or more syllables, the most plus the adjective. The most beautiful, the most interesting, the most difficult, the most dangerous, the most expensive, the most popular, the most complicated, the most intelligent, and the most confident. So here we understand that we can form the superlative adjective by adding the before the adjective and est or iest after the adjective if it's one syllable or two syllable ending in y. If two syllables or more than two syllables, we use the most plus the adjective. Okay, now let's read this one together. Big, look at the bull. The first one is big, but the second one is bigger than the first one, and the third one is the biggest of all. One syllable, we add er in the comparative and est in the superlative. So here we add er if it's comparative and we add est if it's superlative. Wise. So if we have the adjective ends in e, we just add r if it's comparative and st if it's superlative. If we have also a vowel plus consonant, adjective ends in a vowel and consonant, so we double the consonant and then we add er if it's comparative and est if it's superlative. Like thin would be thinner, but we double letter n first, then we add er or est. Fat, vowel a and consonant t, so double the consonant t and add er and est or est. If we have if we have y, we change y to I, then we add er or est. Here, if we have three or more than three syllables, we just write more before the adjective and then after the adjective if it's comparative. And we write the before the most before the adjective if it's superlative. Like here, creative became more creative, creative became more creative, and the most creative. Popular, more popular than, and the most popular. Irregular adjectives. Irregular adjectives, as we said before, like good, bad, little, and much. The comparative of good will be better. And then the best. Bad, worse than, the worst. Little, less than, the least. Much, more than, the most. Study them very well. Now let's move to this picture. Here, look at this picture here. The first one here is fast. The second one is faster than the first one. The third one is the fastest of all. Now, let's move to the other picture again. The first one here is strong. The second one is stronger than the first one. And the third one is strongest. Comparative and superlative also again. The first one is heavy. The second one is heavier than the first one. And the third one is the heaviest. Now let's move to our grammar and writing booklet. Get out it and open page 83. Unit 16, superlative adjectives. We use superlatives to compare more than two things, as I told you. We can mix the superlatives by adding est. We always use the with the superlatives. Example here, Hamza is the tallest boy in the class. We just put the before the adjective and est after the adjective. It became the tallest. Here, superlatives. The superlative adjectives. Usually we put est after the verb. For example, slow became the slowest, fast became the fastest, tall became the tallest. So the slowest, the fastest, and the tallest. What about the other one? If the adjective ends in e, we just add st. Like large became the largest and nice became the nicest, we just write est. Sorry, st only. Ending in a consonant y, we change Y to I and then we add est. Like angry became, or hungry became the hungriest. Happy, the happiest. Funny, the funniest. We change Y to I, then we add est. Ending in a vowel and consonant. Double the consonant and est. Big became the biggest. Fat, the fattest, and fit, the fittest. Now let's move to page 84. Write the date. Wednesday, April 15, 2020. One syllable adjectives like old, safe, big, and hot, we just add er if it's comparative and est if it's superlative. So we say here older than or the oldest, safer than or the safest, bigger than or the biggest, hotter than or the hottest. Adjectives ending in y, noisy and dirty, noisier than, dirtier than, and the dirtiest. Adjectives with two or more syllables, boring and beautiful, more boring and the most boring, more beautiful and the most beautiful. Irregular adjectives, good became better than and the best, bad worse than and the worst, far farther than and the farthest. Now let's move to page 85. Comparative and superlative, we will complete the chart here. Number 1, the adjective is fast, the comparative faster than, the superlative the fastest. Number 2, big, bigger than the biggest, big, bigger than the biggest. Number 4, cold, colder than the coldest. 5, long, longer than the longest. 6, large, larger than the largest. Wise, number 7, wise, wiser than the wisest. 8, tall, taller than the tallest. Happy, happier than the happiest, we change Y to I. Angry, angrier than the angriest. Good, better than the best. Bad, worse than the worst. Now let's move to page 86. Here we will write the comparative or the superlative adjective in the correct place. Number 1, Ali is a space than. There is than here, than Adam. So it's a comparative or superlative comparative. So we will just write er beside the adjective tall. It will be taller than. Number 2, pineapples are space than oranges. Sweet would be sweeter than. 3, this is the space book I've ever read. Here, sad became the saddest. Number 4, winter is the coldest. Not cold, not the colder, no, the coldest, superlative. Number 5, my bag is heavier than yours. So if you find then, it means that it's a comparative adjective. If you find the, it means that it's a superlative adjective. Number 6, Sarah's dress is shorter than. Number 7, summer is hotter than autumn. Number 8, the elephant is bigger than the mouse. Number 9, this TV is the biggest one. Here with double letter G. Number 10, Tim can run faster than Bill. Here it's a comparative adjective. Now let's remember together. We have two kinds here, comparative adjectives and superlative adjectives. Comparative adjectives comparing two things, we add er, like stronger. Superlative comparing three or more things, we add est to the adjective, like strongest. Look at this picture here, they are here 2 and here they are 3. That's why I use the superlative in the second picture. Comparative and superlative adjectives. Tall became taller, hot, hotter, heavy, heavier, boring, more boring, good, better. I want you here to do this exercise. Write the comparative adjective. My bike is space. My bike is space. Then yours. We have the adjective fast, so it will be faster than. Do the others. Okay? Comparatives. Write your name and class and write the date of today. Here, Tom is space than Sam. We will use more tall or taller or tallest. What do you think? They are two. So it's a comparative adjective. So here we will write more tall or taller. It's an adjective with one syllable, so we will just write er. So it will be taller than Sam. Do the other questions. Now, I hope that you understand the lesson very well. Thank you and goodbye, grade 2. See you next time. Study hard and stay safe. Bye.